Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're listening from. This is Living with an Invisible Learning Challenge, where we will talk about the challenges and triumphs of living with NBLD, that is nonverbal learning disability. And we will not only be talking about the challenges that I have personally, Jennifer Lynn Purcell, but also the challenges that other NBLDers have in their life with having that learning challenge. And I also like to broaden out to other learning challenges like autism and dyslexia and ADHD and Asperger's to try to be more inclusive and to compare and contrast the challenges that we all experience as neurodivergents. And I also try to include neurotypicals in it as well as terms of saying that they might experience similar challenges, but to different degrees than neurodivergents do. And to try to say, hey, this is how we can help each other with these challenges. Okay, so today's topic is on NLD and working for yourself, your parents, or an organization that understands your needs and wants. I have been in the working world with NLD and chronic migraines for 5 years now. I have had a variety of jobs over these years, from teacher's aide to ABA therapy to life coach for neurodivergent adults to admin assistant, tech, and social media manager for the Unity Center. I have been working for my parents for full time for almost 3 years now. I prefer this job over my previous ones because they know how to help me when I have challenges due to NLD and the chronic migraines better than anyone else would. I have many things that help me in my job. I'll name the main ones that help me with doing my job well. Those are flexibility, variety, faithfulness, resilience, knowledge, and thoughtfulness. Since my parents are so knowledgeable about NLD and the chronic migraines, they are able to help me really well when I have challenges with them at work. My mom has done a lot of research about both NLD and chronic migraines, so she knows how to assist me well. She also is really patient, thoughtful, intuitive, and flexible with me. She lets me exercise before work and take breaks from working at the computer when I need them. She also lets me bring my dog Truffles to work with me. She has given me countless chances to learn from my mistakes and improve upon them. She always has her office door open so I can come in and ask her questions in person if over email is too difficult. She is also willing for me to bring personal things like challenges I have with NLD and the migraines so I can get help with them. She believes in my ability to work well and better than I usually do. My dad is very patient too and is good about making me laugh when I'm having a hard day. He's great at giving me practice with tutoring for tech and giving instructions to others. He is also pretty good at giving me constructive feedback on conversations. Both of my parents are good at helping me answer questions, emails, and provide advice for me on situations that I might not have encountered before. They are willing to let me take a nap while I'm at work if needed, but I haven't done it for a while. They are also okay with me listening to music without headphones while I'm working in my office. I usually do that because I find myself, at least for myself, it's hard to concentrate if I don't have music on in the background when I'm working. Um, I don't know if that's part of NLD or something else. So the first article I would like to cite is titled Tips for Exhibitors at Employers Expos from Neurodiversity Hub. Quote, 7 things you can do to be more inclusive. 1. Reduce sensory stimulation. While it is a common approach to use bright colors or elements with loud noises or blinky lights at your booth, one concern for neurodiverse students at employers' expos is sensory overload. From the fluorescent lights to the numerous concurrent conversations is often an overwhelming experience. The more you can help reduce this, the more productive the student conversations can be. Number two, ask a student's interests, including questions for students about their studies, hobbies, and interests can be a successful way to get students to open up. Once they are excited about the conversation, for example, if they are talking about what interests them, you will likely be able to learn more about them quickly. With this being said, avoid open ended or vague questions as these are difficult for neurodiverse students to understand and respond to. Don't worry about eye contact is the third one. Maintaining eye contact can be very difficult for neurodiverse students. It is not that we are, sorry, it is not that they are not trustworthy, but rather that looking someone in the eye often requires them to sacrifice energy they otherwise would be using to listen and pay attention to the conversation. Four, speak clearly and concisely. Above all, avoid using metaphors, idioms, or nuances as autistic people and neurodivergent people often take things very literally and will be confused by these types of phrases. Avoiding jargon will help ensure that the student doesn't get lost in the conversation. Also, avoid phrases like on the same page because students won't understand that there is not a physical page to stand on. I'm just laughing at that because I can relate to that. Five, be patient. Students may take several seconds before they respond. Avoid jumping in with another question or clarifying comment, as this can interrupt their thought process. Six, listen. Try not to interrupt the student because it may cause them to start again and answering the original question. However, if a student has been talking for an extended period of time, it is okay to remind them that they have a limited amount of time and there are numerous students at the event. The most important thing is to be respectful when doing this. Seven, be open. This may be the most important tip. The more you avoid making quick assumptions and relying on unfounded expectations, the more successful the student interactions will be for you. Neurodiverse students have amazing capabilities. By making a few adjustments, you and your company will be able to access this untapped talent source. Close quote. So I know that article is focusing more on students and at expos and introducing them to the working world, but you can definitely apply that to somebody who has been working with you for a while and you know that they're neurodivergent and be able to, like the article was saying, listen to them and try to be open and not use jargons or idioms or expressions because we take those things too literally. And being able to be mindful that you might have to repeat yourself because we're thinking about our answer, or maybe we don't understand what you said to us. So we might have to ask questions to clarify instructions or what you are wanting us to do so that we can do the job better. So the next article is titled How to Get the Best Out of Your Autistic Employee by Professor Temple Grandin. And you might recall that Temple Grandin has Asperger's, or did. I think she died recently. And as well, oh, okay. I just falsely said something. Temple Grandin is still alive. I was Googling it. My bad. So this article is from her, and it's about how to get the best out of your autistic employee. And I'm sure you can apply this to other neurodivergents because there are some similarities between all of us. That is not saying that we all have the same learning challenge. I'm just saying there are similarities. All right, quote. Tips and ideas. Autistic people thrive on certainty. Help your employee establish a work routine. If something is happening to interrupt the routine, give as much warning as possible. Um, and provide context for and agendas for meetings ahead of time. Strategies to consider: providing one instruction at a time, giving visual instructions or an example to follow, minimizing distractions and interruptions, giving clear explanations, deadlines, and parameters, providing structured tasks with logical and sequential steps, helping to break down and initiate the task, strategies to help with focus, for example, short breaks, providing clear written steps, providing context and bigger picture objectives of the task, printing to do lists, providing notepads for writing notes, showing examples of what is needed, preparing checklists, creating diagrams, allowing time when transitioning between tasks, and checking for understanding. As the task progresses, keep checking on progress. And last one, giving examples of the social expectations of your workplace. Close quote. So I think those strategies are good. One couple things to note. When it's said to create diagrams, I know for at least me as being an NBLDer, diagrams can be very confusing to me to be able to read. So maybe that's not true for all neurodivergence, but at least it is for me. And if you are going to create a diagram, have that in mind because it's like, well, I want to help them understand this better, but am I confusing them even more by creating this diagram? If you know what I mean. Um, and that's also true with graphs. That I would say is a kind of diagram. Um, Charts as well. So maybe use something else or ask them would they prefer that would help them understand better. Would they prefer you to, like Temple said, to give an example of what is needed? Maybe you could have them be okay with um, doing more audio. So, like, example, um, this could work where I've done this before for myself is I'll record myself when I'm going through and reading something out loud. Um, and then I'll listen to the recording to see if anything's missing. Or I try to read it out loud very slowly with my finger underneath it to see if I'm missing any words when I'm proofing something. So that could be a strategy as well. Just try to be open with your employee and try to see what works for them and what can also work for you. Um, the third article is titled Neurodiversity as a Competitive Advantage by Robert D. Austin and Gary P. Piazzano. Sorry, I said that wrong. Quote, is about why you should embrace it in your workplace. That being neurodivergent or neurodiversity. Summary. Many people with neurological conditions such as autism, spectrum disorder, and dyslexia have extraordinary skills, including in pattern recognition, memory, and mathematics, yet they often struggle to fit the profiles sought by employers. A growing number of companies, including SAP, Hewitt Packard Enterprise, and Microsoft, have reformed their HR processes in order to access neurodiverse talent and are seeing productivity gains, quality improvement, boosts in innovative capabilities, and increased employee engagement as a result. The programs vary but have seen major elements in common. Companies should team with governments or nonprofits experienced in working with people with disabilities. Use non interview assessments processes, train other workers and managers in what to expect, set up a support system, tailor methods for managing careers, scale the program, mainstream the program. The work for managers will be harder, but the payoff to companies will be considerable. Access to more of the employees' talents, along with diverse perspectives that will help them compete. Why neurodiversity presents opportunities. Neurodiversity is the idea that neurological differences like autism and ADHD, NLD, dyslexia, dyscalculia, dysgraphia, etc., are the result of normal natural variation in the human genome. John Elder Robinson, a scholar in residence and a co chair of the Neurodiversity Working Group at the College of William and Mary, writes in a blog on Psychology Today's website. Robinson, who himself has Asperger's syndrome, adds indeed, many individuals who embrace the concept of neurodiversity believe that people with differences do not need to be cured, they need help and accommodation instead. I love that. We couldn't agree more. Why companies don't tap neurodiverse talent. What has kept so many companies from taking on people with the skills they badly need? It comes down to the way they find and recruit talent and decide whom to hire and promote. Especially in large companies, HR processes are developed with an eye towards wide application across the organization. But there is a conflict between scalability and the goal of acquiring neurodiverse talent. SAP focuses on having scalable HR processes. However, if we were to use the same processes for everyone, we would miss people with autism, says Annika Winneberg, the company's chief diversity and inclusion officer. How pioneers are changing the talent management game. Uh, the tech industry has a history of hiring oddballs. The talented nerd who lacks social graces has become a cultural icon as much as a part of the industry mythos as the company that starts in a garage. In his book, Neurotribes, Steve Silberman points out that the incidence of autism is particularly high in places like Silicon Valley for reasons not completely understood. He and others have hypothesized that many of the industry's oddballs or and nerds might well have been on the spectrum, although undiagnosed. Hiring for neurodiversity then could be seen as an extension of the tendencies of a culture that recognize the value of nerds. Team with social partners for expertise you lack. Use non traditional, non interview based assessment and training processes. Train other workers and managers. Set up a support ecosystem. Tailor methods for managing careers. Scale the program. Mainstream the program. Challenges of a neurodiverse workforce. To be sure, companies implementing neurodiversity programs have encountered challenges. Although there are plenty of potential candidates, many are hard to identify because universities sensitive to issue of discrimination do not classify students in neurodiversity terms, and potential candidates do not necessarily self-identify. In response, HPE is helping colleges and high schools set up non traditional work experience programs for neurodiverse populations. These involve video games, robotic programming, and other activities. Microsoft too is working with is working with universities to improve methods of identifying and accessing neurodiverse talent. A major shift in managing people. Neurodiversity programs include companies and their leaders to adopt a style of management that emphasizes placing each person in a context that maximizes her or his contributions. Close quote. I need some water after reading all that. Okay, so my thoughts on that article and all of the articles that I read to you today are I'll start with the last one. It definitely had some good chunks in there in terms of saying how to work with your neurodiverse clients, or excuse me, employees, and to try to increase the number of them and be more open to it. I thought it was kind of interesting how they were adjusting their HR processes in hiring and wanting to be more inclusive for neurodiverse, which is good. Um, and I understand what they were saying, that it can be difficult when a student is coming out of college, or sound like maybe they're still in college and doing an internship, to hire them and identify if they're neurodiverse, because they might not want to disclose that, which is their choice, or maybe they're not diagnosed, or in some cases, you could be misdiagnosed, meaning you're not diagnosed as the right's not the right word. Oh no, it is in this case. You're not diagnosed underneath the correct learning disability or challenge that fits your behavior or what you were born with. I hope that makes sense to you. Um, and so for me, what I got out of these articles is that you need to be more open with your hiring process and working with your employees who are neurodivergent, and be more inclusive, and try to listen to them better and be more patient, and to try to be willing to walk through with them when they are having challenges, and be open to being creative and have different approaches for helping them. um, and to also check in on them throughout the day, and see how they're doing, and to see if they need any help or what they've got accomplished. And you could even do that throughout the week. It might be different for each neurodivergent employee. And let them take breaks. For me, my mom does that, and I enjoy that, and I appreciate that. Sometimes that's just going out for a walk with my dog, or going to do a different task that doesn't require me being in front of the computer, but I am still working. So, example, I work in many areas for my mom, not just admin and tech and social media, but I also clean the building. And we have quite a big building that I'm in charge of cleaning. We have 2 floors. I'm not sure how much square footage is in the building, but it's pretty big. And I don't clean it all by myself like I used to when I started. I have volunteers who help me clean the bigger areas, like the sanctuary and the upstairs, with vacuuming it and that stuff. But I do clean the bathrooms. Um, we have 4 sets of them, 2 upstairs, 2 downstairs on the office side, and then 2 more sets um, down in the preschool wing that I also clean. Um, and so I also help with clean the preschool. So there's a lot of different things that I manage that help me honestly not get bored, which is good, because I feel like if I was doing the same mundane thing every single day, in and out, I would not like my job. I would just get bored, and I would want something different, probably within a few months, maybe even shorter than that. And you want something that you're going to like, and that you're going to love, and that you're going to want to do for a few years, and maybe the rest of your life when you're working. So try to be mindful of that when you're working for somebody else, or for an organization that understands your needs and wants. Or maybe you're an entrepreneur and you want to try to create your own business. But be mindful when in creating your own business that if you don't have money saved up and you're not living with a security net like I am with my parents, it's going to be challenging to do that without having another full time job. So for me, um, I have been working on a side hustle recently, and recently, I mean within the last year, for tailored tech services. That's what I'm calling it. And basically, I am helping other people that I know through work for my full time job. And being a spiritual community, there's quite a few people there, and helping them with projects on their iPhone, computer, or iPad, mainly Macs for computers, and tailoring it to them, being the custom project of like creating a Spotify playlist for them, or a presentation, or a slideshow, or being a DJ at a concert for them, being a tech assistant for their online Zoom class, um, helping them put together some audio for an iMovie that they have that they want to have for personal use, or that's just some examples of some things that I've done so far. And I'm creating a website of what I've done and what I can do, and I'm almost done with it. I should have it out by before the summer ends, of course. But I brought that up as an example of how I'm creating a side hustle to bring in extra income while I'm working full time at a job that is flexible and meets my needs so that I can have more variety and not a little more spice in my life, if you want to say it that way. So, yeah, that is the end of this episode. I also wanted to let you know that I started a Patreon account for this podcast to try to get some more revenue from it. That's not the reason why I started this podcast, but I'm trying to get some revenue from the podcast because it will help me keep it going. Um, so if you are willing to donate even $1 or $2 or $5, whatever amount is comfortable for you, to Patreon for Living with an Invisible Learning Challenge, that would be appreciated. You can also use Spotify to donate money, and you can also use BetterHelp to donate money with clicking on the link and becoming a customer of BetterHelp. So those are 3 different ways you can support the podcast, and I hope that you will choose which way works for you, and that you will choose which level works for you as well. And I hope that you do it because the podcast helps you also, and that you are willing to support me in continuing to produce it. Thank you. And today I am very excited to announce that BetterHelp is now sponsoring this podcast. I have had 7 years of therapy, so I know it can help change your life if you not only let it, but work on the personal goals that you set with your therapist. Without a healthy mind, being truly happy and at peace is hard. The good news is therapy works. But what is therapy exactly? It's whatever you want it to be. Maybe you're not feeling motivated right now and would like some tools to help. Or maybe you're feeling insecure in relationships at work, not dealing well with stress. Whatever you need, it's time to stop being ashamed of normal human struggles and start feeling better because you deserve to be happy. And now you don't have to worry about finding an in person therapist near you to help. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's more affordable than in person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. Join the millions of people who are seeing what online therapy is really about. It's always a good time to invest in yourself because you are the greatest asset. And special offering to listeners of Living with an Invisible Learning Challenge. You can get 10% off your first month of professional therapy at betterhelp.com/. I'll put in the link in the podcast description for you. That's BetterHelp, HELEP. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this podcast. I also want to mention to you that I just launched my podcast swag on Wednesday of this week and have a page for it on my website, and I will also send you the link to it in the podcast description, and I will also send it to you in the newsletter that I usually send out on Fridays. I am now selling t-shirts, water bottles, and a backpack, and they all have the podcast logo and title on it and the tagline. So I am looking forward to watching the sales and seeing who buys them, and spreading the word more about my podcast. So I hope that episode was helpful to you and that you were able to get something out of it and it was meaningful for you, and that you can share that lesson with somebody else that you know who is neurodivergent or neurotypical and will be able to help you with that challenge that you feel like arises for you, or the lesson that you learned from the episode. And I hope that you take some time to journal about what thoughts or feelings came up for you while you were listening. And I hope that you can spread the word about NLD and being neurodivergent and try to spread the awareness with others as well. Thank you for listening to Living with an Invisible Learning Challenge. Talk to you next Friday.